Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here in person in this conference and to contribute in this exciting session. Very briefly about Pharma 4.0. We've heard quite a lot already from Yvonne. And then I show a digital journey at Bachem, which is not a case study, it's a collection of case studies of digitalization projects that we did in the last few years, and some very exciting ongoing smart factory initiatives. Forgive me, I don't have the trademark sign on the Pharma 4.0. For the sake of my presentation, it's an umbrella term for the digitalization and automation projects that we do. Why do we care about digitalization? Because it's helping us to do better what we do, making drug substances and getting new medicals to the patients. Digitalization helps in a lot of different ways, like efficiency, productivity, the quality, and of course it also comes with a couple of challenges. The more we rely on digital systems, we expose our systems and ourselves to cyber attacks. Also, we need new skills, new competences, and we all build a lot of new experiences. The regulatory aspects, the guidelines, they still apply. There might be a few new ones, but sometimes we need to be a little bit pioneering, understanding them in detail for digitalized initiatives, but the regulators support that because they understand they have the common target or goal to get new medicals to the patients. And of course, with digital transformation, we are changing how people work on an everyday basis. So it's a lot of change management involved as well. As a CDMO making peptides and oligos, we look for long-term partnerships with our clients, and thereby we want to contribute to new modalities, medicines, and helping patients ultimately. We have manufacturing sites in California and in Switzerland, and in this presentation I focus on the largest GMP production site in Switzerland. I put together a roadmap. We didn't align our slides, but you'll find some common terms here. We have this lighthouse project. It's a greenfield project, a new manufacturing building that's right now under construction. And for that building, in the design phase, we had to do we had to make a lot of decisions in terms of digitalization, the level of automation, which systems to implement, which not. And what helped us a lot there was this multi-year journey in digitalization projects on the site, in existing buildings and existing facilities. So we started back in the 2000s with semi-automated reactors, production systems for peptides. Automation was a supervisory control, and data were siloed on a local computer running the SCADA. Later, paperless lab was the big buzzword there, lab information management system, and also we got a new ERP system, which was a requirement for a lot of other initiatives that then came. Specifically a manufacturing execution system, giving us the opportunity to work with electronic batch records instead of paper records, and using process analytical technology. We implemented a computerized maintenance management system, basically running, organizing, scheduling, documenting all maintenance work. And very important, a plant information system, data historian, where all the process relevant, all the GMP relevant process data goes into. And that was required for implementation of a robot, which does a fully automated peptide synthesis, and that robot is connected to a lot of other devices, and this is a real paper-free documentation. We started modeling and using digital twins. I mean, this is just the start of it. We'll see a lot more in the future about that. And we decided to implement a distributed control system in the existing building and also the same one in the new building. Building information modeling and vertical integration of all the devices into the whole IT/OT infrastructure of the site. The automation pyramid is a concept that guides us through the slides because I explained different examples in different layers of the pyramid. So in the bottom layer, we have the devices, the machine sensors, machine data on the factory floor, and production control. In the next layer, production management in a manufacturing execution system, and then the ERP system on top. And when we are adding more devices and connect them, we talk about horizontal integration and making devices interact with automation, MES, and ERP. That's referred to as vertical integration. And the complexity is between these layers because there are interfaces and data needs to go up and down. The solid phase peptide synthesis is one of the cornerstones, one of the most important operations for us. And the idea was to fully automate the solid phase synthesis at production scale. I'm not talking about the benchtop synthesizer. So this is really GMP production in the factory. And to do that, we had to digitalize the whole process, making it paperless, minimal human interaction, and for that, looking at the process as it typically looks, we have two major parts of that process. You all know that. So in the solid phase reactor, we have the deprotection, coupling, capping steps, and a lot of washings. That was fully automated already since the 2000s with the SCADA. But there is another step here. This is the dissolving of the amino acid and preparing the solution and getting the solution into the reactor and cleaning all that. And that's a manual procedure done by operators. And that's why we called the whole process semi-automated. So for a full automation, it's a complex topology, different components necessary. So we have the factory floor. This is a robot with the solid phase synthesizer, some warehouse supporting devices to get the amino acids there, and the control system. But then we have the manufacturing execution system, a data historian, and of course a connection to the ERP system. And there were a lot of conceptual questions at the beginning because I don't think this is a right and wrong, but there needs to be a definition how exactly it's implemented. For example, the recipes, the procedures, how the product is made. Is it defined here or there? Or an executed batch record, the electronic batch record in the system. Is it coming from here or from there? And a lot of similar other questions. So for a full automation, we have to omit manual steps like taking samples, handing them over to QC, getting an analytical result, based on that making a decision, a classical in-process control that needs to be removed and replaced by PAT, which we do for the ID and solubilization of the starting materials, the FMOG amino acid derivatives and reagents, cleaning and also washing cycles. And these data coming from the probes of the PAT, they are communicated between SCADA and MES. And the business case for automation is very simple but impressive. This is a time scale, preparation of a coupling, then the coupling time, operators prepare all that, then do the documentation and clean everything, and then they go home, and the next day they come back and do the same thing again. And to condense that timeline, you need to bring in more people working in shifts, two or three shifts. So you can remove the gap here, the non-productive gap, but the price is having a lot more people. So automation runs 24/7, it's very, very clear. And on top, These hold times with process intermediates bear a risk of side reactions. So on top we have a better control of critical process parameters. So overall automation is a lot more efficient utilization of the assets. This is a picture of the robot. The robot itself, you find similar ones in the automotive industry. The innovative piece is the robot connected with all the GMP compliant systems. People call it BALU, the Bachem amino acid loading unit, and this is designed for the 150-liter solid phase reactors. These are workhorses in the factory. This is the single-digit kilogram per API batch scale. No more paper documentation, and all process-relevant data in the PI system. So this is a little video from the robot, what it's doing. The robot handles the containers with the amino acid powders. It connects the powder transfer system. It does the transfer. It disassembles the lines, cleans them, and it helps removing the used vessels. So all the steps that were done by operators are now done by the robot, and thereby the whole process is fully automated. Going to the bottom layer of the automation pyramid again, the control has three types of parameters. There are basic functions that are coming from the master batch record in the manufacturing execution system, and they're sent to the SCADA. There are also global functions that apply to the whole recipe, which basically is the developed process for one product, also coming from the batch record in MES. And then there is machine-specific parameters on the SCADA level. And in these three types of parameters, also the tolerances and alarms and critical parameters are defined. The manufacturing execution system leads the whole process control and also the operations workflows. So in a fully automated process, the workflows are not requiring human interaction, but we also use this MES for other unit operations, not just the robot and the synthesis. We are using it for chromatography, for cleaning of equipment, and we are adding constantly more equipment that is handled in the manufacturing execution system. And one of the really good things is also equipment doesn't need paper logbooks anymore. So each equipment that is handled in MES, it's reflected in the ERP system and in MES. So this is the vertical integration and on the upper part of the automation pyramid. And each equipment has a status. The status is either it's in use, that means it's allocated to a product, or in the ERP language to a process order. And after that, it's not clean. It needs to be cleaned, so there's a status of in cleaning. And then there is a clean status, and only when the status is cleaned and calibrated, the system can allocate it on to the next batch, to the next process order. So there's no way of using dirty equipment for the next step. There are two types of things that are handled in MES. They are called specification types. It's a master batch record for target materials that are products that we produce. So basically batch record to make products. And also the equipment that we use. This is the equipment status that I've just shown. And setting this up, this is all a graphical workflow, electronic approval and review cycles. Electronic batch records, they have three pillars. So they have a header with master data, material number and lot number. And then the bill of material, that's aligned with the ERP system. Material in and out and costing lot size, which is the typical batch size according to the recipe. And then the basic recipe, this is the procedure how to make the product. And then also the equipment that is used for that. And the release of such an electronic batch record, it's following the review by exception process, which basically means we only look at exceptions. And that's done by operators, and they have access to the MES with terminals on the factory floor. and QA have access from their desks or even from remote. It looks like that. So you see a graphical workflow, and compared to a traditional paper GMP production record for a peptide, we needed 2 operators, a supervisor, then 1 documentation reviewer in QA, and a QA release manager. Between 3 and 5 people involved in the execution and review and approval of a batch record. And impressive, with the electronic batch record, unless there are deviations, there are 0 people involved in the release of a batch record. The interface between the management and enterprise level, in the traditional system with the paper-based documentation, the operator documents on paper, for example, a specific weight of starting material. There is a second operator witnessing that, and then there is a documentation on paper in the batch record, and there's a manual booking in the ERP system, and likely an additional booking for data mining or other purpose. So in the fully automated process, we have the same data, the exact amount of, let's say, an amino acid that is consumed. The balance or the scales are connected to the MAS, and this exact weight is in the systems and aligned. So only one number, no rounding errors, no typos. And in data science, that's called a single source of truth, which is important just to have a clear inventory and COGS management. The PI system is a GMP-compliant archive for process data. It has a lot more features than that, like visualizations. For example, I can easily compile these P and ID-like visualizations. So in that case, I have the robot, activation reactor, solid phase reactor, supporting vessels, the tank farm, and we have all the sensor data. We have the weight, we have the temperature, we have the filling level, and that's all visible in real time. Of course, also historically, I can go back and have a history of that. And of course, I can look at a specific batch, a specific product, or all products. I can trend temperatures, back pressures, whatever has a sensor and the data that goes into that system. Also tolerances, alarms. I can do a trending and look at outliers. I can do root cause analysis. If I have an impurity which is formed on a cycle 7 in the synthesis, I can go back and see was there an outlier with the temperature or something like that. And I can also do continued process verification and just easily compile data and do statistical analysis. So if someone is used to work with that system, it takes 2 minutes to get a 1-year temperature record for a specific equipment. Can easily be exported into Excel or wherever you need it. The whole system is qualified for GMP, and the qualification was straightforward but quite complex to set up. So the computer system validation looks like this. So it's again reflecting the automation pyramid. ERP system that needed a change control because we added some data comes from the ERP and goes back into the ERP. So there was a change control and a user acceptance test in the Q system. There's always a quality system and a productive system. And the IT/OT part with the historian and MES, that was a computer system validation with factory acceptance test, IQ in the Q system, site acceptance test, user acceptance test, and then a change into the productive system with an IQ. And SCADA PLC, this is the classical equipment qualification, factory acceptance test, site acceptance test, IQ/OQ, and a user acceptance test in the productive system. And then the whole system as a complete system gets tested in an end-to-end test. It's a performance qualification. In other words, it's a test synthesis at scale. So that's how we did it. So now, with all this knowledge going into our new building, the concept of digital twins to do simulations and modeling. So there's a physical object and there's a digital twin of it. Here is the robot, and this is a 3D model of the robot. But the 3D model is not yet the digital twin. What makes it a digital twin is that data is exchanged both ways, the bidirectional interaction. And that allows us to do simulation and modeling. I'll show some examples. The robot is it's not just a robot, it has a lot of connections with the vessels, the sensors, a lot of data that go into the PI system. And this is sometimes referred to as the IIoT, the Industrial Internet of Things, so connected sensors and devices. For example, these calibrated temperature probes can easily be installed in rooms, and then you have in the PI system a real-time temperature logger. So without that, and before that, we had temperature loggers, and someone needs to come in and export the data into Excel, review, write a report, approve it, that goes into the archive. So here, we just go to the PI system, any room, and go back and check the temperatures for the last 12 months or whatever. This is an example of a digital twin, in that case from a tank farm, and specifically in this example, one specific tank. It's a 40 cubic meter acetonitrile tank, and that has level sensors. So we have real-time information about the level in the tank. We also have information coming from the production plan in the ERP system. So each production order has a bill of materials and a recipe. So it's a prediction of solvent consumption on the one hand, and we also have we know when new procurement orders are coming in. So we can do simulations for the level in the tank. What if analysis, so for example, if one delivery is delayed or a new order comes in, a huge project. So we are running solid phase synthesis in a 1,000 liter reactor that consumes a lot of solvent per day. So every synthesis counts. So we have the solvent demand side, the solvent supply side, and real-time data. And the solvent supplier actually has these data. So he looks into the level of the tank and comes automatically. We don't need to call him. This new building, it's under construction now. It's already half of the building is visible already. It's a 170,000 square foot building on 6 productive floors, 1.5 million liters tank farm. It will be 50-50 for peptides and oligos, and it's made from metric tons of supplying tides. For this building, we are using building information modeling. It's a cloud environment where all the planners, architects, engineers, users, all the piping and installation planners, electric wiring, HVAC, they all use the same tool, and all the information goes together in that tool. Conflicts for piping, for example, can be sorted out. Simulations like different diameters of piping can be simulated, and with this tool, it can generate a real 3D model of the future building. For example, this is a screenshot of the 3D model of the tank farm. That's how the first tank looks like when it's coming in. It's pretty massive. You see the main working down there. For the equipment, this is a high-level view on the oligo line, upstream and downstream. And when we zoom in, we can really zoom into the level of a single valve, a single line, a single sensor. So all the information of the whole building is in this BIM, building information model. So let me end with that slide. With Pharma 4.0 or digital transformation, what we want to achieve is a smart tides production, for fast and reliable supply. We need to be flexible in terms of demand. We need to have a high capacity, of course compliant, and of course efficient, and that's what is achieved with the help of digitalization. That's the last slide. Thank you. Open for questions.
Thanks, Daniel. It was a really good talk. Any questions from the audience?
That was very impressive. What's the downside, if any? At what stage do the capital expenditures exceed that of, say, hiring more people, building infrastructure to support all the instrumentation and maintaining the instrumentation in a GMP fashion?
Yeah.
How do those influence?
Yeah, so the whole digital transformation journey is investment heavy. And we did not go and come with that whole roadmap and say this is what it's going to cost and now this is the business case. It consists of a lot of individual initiatives and projects. Some of them rely on each other, others are independent from each other. And these major investments, they have their own business case. So if you balance automation versus just hiring more people, finding triple a group of experts versus just having a robot doing it 24/7, you can actually calculate the benefit for that. Yeah. Maintenance and all that supporting functions. So Yvonne has really well explained what you need to support all that is an infrastructure, an IT, OT infrastructure, but also maintenance and everything, and people that can do that, that have the skills for that. But I think all of us, we are in this journey towards this, more digital facilities. If you look at the benefits, getting more of the drugs out faster, reliable, in quantities that, if you look at oligos, we talk about quantities that are pretty high, and we need to come up with solutions how to make those products, and that helps us.
Take the next question. Carlos, if you're in the room, could you come up to the front, the next speaker? Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah. Could you please deliberate a little more on interactions between sort of quality system and a robot? Is it everything kind of robot does is qualified and validated? What if error happens? Could you comment on any of those?
Yeah. What the robot does is, the handling of the amino acids, that step is fully validated, and in the manufacturing execution system, you have this electronic batch record that contains all the information, all the sensors, and if there is any excursion or deviation, it is documented, and then the system gives an alarm, and based on the criticality of the alarm, QA triggers deviation or investigation. So this is not different compared to the traditional operators documenting on paper. There are several safety steps for what the robot is doing. For example, there is a verification that the amino acid is fully dissolved, the whole amount. Yeah? There is a weight check, plausibility check of the weight after getting the amino acid into the vessel. There is another balance also connected to the AMAS. And there's a PAT sensor technology to make sure that the concentration is as expected. So I'm not sure if that fully answered your question, but.
So Daniel, this journey is quite fascinating. In general, how long did this whole time frame take?
The first semi-automated systems, mid-2000s. And the second half of the roadmap was in the last maybe 3 years, so pretty condensed. Yeah,
great.
Speeding up everything.
Hi, Daniel. Chris Oswald Consulting. Hey, I just wanted to see what the feedback has been from your clients. So you guys have obviously had this approach for digitization. I'm sure that you have a mix of clients that are reluctant, some that are maybe on board. How have you guys handled that? Because this has been a migration. So how have you developed with that relationship, I guess, with current clients, proposed it with future clients? What has been their feedback?
Yeah, you are right. I mean, not everybody likes these sort of changes depending on the maturity of the project. So luckily, we do have a couple of projects like generic peptides where we can do these changes and implement them fully. There are also NCE projects where we really discuss with the customer, and indeed a couple of customers are really willing to go for that innovative approach. There will be others that say, let's figure out if this really works, but you always have that with innovation. Yeah. And the regulators, the Swiss agency, they are fascinated about it. They come in, to really understand what we are doing because they're excited about the technology.
So, Daniel, what are some of the reservations that clients have in implementing this? Is it just an unknown?
It changes the way you're interacting. So, for example, instead of getting a paper copy or PDF of a batch record, you need to learn how to read the batch record. It contains the same level of information, even more than before, but you need to be trained on that. Also, I don't know, using the PI system, you need a training on that. All the electronic systems require a training. You need to understand how they are working. You need a license. You need to, be able to use them.
Great. Yeah. Any other questions? If there are no other questions, let's thank Daniel.
Thank you very much.